Hey, welcome to Jazz. Oh, I forgot to pour my drink. Jazz After Dark. How you doing here? I'm just actually finishing up this week of Japanese whiskey, and this is letter C. So let me see. Stay with me for a second. I'm sorry, I forgot. This is a 12-year-old Kurayoshi. Yep, 12-year-old Kurayoshi's is what it is. And they tell me it is very heavy on the caramel. And so, ooh, cherry. Yeah, I smell the cherry in there. Okay, this could be a winner here. I have not been horribly impressed with the Japanese whiskeys. That's just a flavor. Super smooth, very, very good. But if we're telling me you got cherries, oh my God, yes. Mm-hmm. All right, that's my favorite of the week right there. Definitely gonna make you reminisce of a light scotch, by the way. So just a heads up for that. But that is very good for a Japanese whiskey. It doesn't tell you how much it costs or anything, but um, Kurayoshi, that goes top pick right there for the Japanese whiskeys. I'd say out of the top what we've had this week, that one takes first place. Wow. Okay, grab a drink. Hang out with me here. We're going to try something different. We're going to do rapid fire 15 different advice, tips, tricks, whatever, that you probably haven't heard too many of them. Some of them we've already covered, but we're going to shoot through it and just fire as much as I can until wow. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. That's a that's an 84 right there. If you guys asked me to put numbers to it, that's an 84 out of 100, man. My favorite so far. Very much cherry, fruits, caramel in there, of course, and then it finishes off with like that. Just reminds me of a scotch. I don't know why I can't put my finger on it, but very good. Let's get to the good stuff here, right? And I don't mean the drink. Okay, 15 things. And what I'm going to do is ask for your feedback. So we just kind of got in a position actually where financial advisors are allowed to comment and sort of feedback on the answers, things that you leave for us. We're allowed to do that. Previously, you noticed I don't leave a lot of comments. I don't answer back. None of us do here occasionally, but we have to be careful about that because we used to get in trouble. Now we can answer more. So I'll take your feedback here. Any of these that are interesting, we'll expand on. Right? And of course, if you're a client, any of these you need help with, of course, we'll go as far as we need to go for you here. And if you're not a client, Jazz Wealth, if you want to check us out there, very laid back, but incredibly detailed, data-driven financial advisors that don't require you to have a $500,000 to start with us. We just work with anybody and everybody that wants to get their dough straight. And I appreciate your consideration. Okay, ready? Number one. Well, we just saw it last night. This is a tease to get you to go watch the other video. Reimburse yourself in your HSA for all the different reasons other than medical that you can. I saw a lot of great ones. Those of you that are up there in retirement years, I saw some great comments about what you can do to reimburse yourself to possibly pay for future Medicare bills, right? Not Medicare bills, but premiums. So yes, right? You guys are thinking outside the box. I loved it. So that's a good one. Remember, you don't have to use your HSA to reimburse yourself in that year for your medical expenses. It's retroactive. You can repay yourself way down the line. And the IRS doesn't care if you actually use those dollars for that previous bill that's probably already paid by now. Number two, borrow from your brokerage account instead of selling when the markets are down quickly. So if you don't know, here at Jazz, we use Goldman Sachs as our custodian. I chose them because, I chose Folio, which then is now part of Goldman Sachs, but I chose them because do you get to just walk into Goldman Sachs and get all the tips, research, back-end software? Like we have a client that's literally in the middle of selling a grocery store, and I went to Goldman Sachs and I'm like, I don't know how to help this guy on this level. And so Goldman Sachs is like, we got a team. There's 4 people helping him package up his grocery store and make sure he sells it from the legal side all the way through the important side. So I just thought, if I can get my foot in the door and I fight and kick and scratch and claw, then I could fight and kick and scratch and claw to say, why don't we let everybody have access to some of this stuff? Why they got to have $20 million just to be able to open the door, right? That's crazy. So anyways, I say that because clients here can borrow against their brokerage account. That's not always a good thing, by the way. There's a level of sophistication you want to at least pretend that you have. But when the markets are down and you go, oh man, what a great time. Like the guy around the corner wants to remodel my pool. He's hurting for work and he's giving me a discount, but I don't want to sell my stock. It's down 15%. The markets, they've been falling. So what if I just said, here, I'll give you the money. You could take it, right? And I won't charge you. I won't charge you anything, but we won't charge you much because, well, there's no risk. If you don't pay it back, we're just going to take it from your brokerage account, right? So brokerage firms do that. They just typically only do that if you have a lot of money, or if you don't have a lot of money, they put a lot of little weird limitations on it. So I say to consider something like that, and then the money that you still have invested, I bet you the dividends will pay for the interest. So it could be a net zero cost loan to you to borrow your own money. Then when the markets recover, all right, fine, sell them then, right? Sell the stock on the way up when you feel better about selling it. All right, number 3, if you have your dough straight, I thought about making a video on this, but this is probably just a quick tip. If you've got your dough straight and you're saving enough for retirement, remember we have the new retirement planner. You can go in the portal. Every client can use it. We built it from scratch. So no joke, you can actually sit there and figure out how much do I need to put in my 401k or how much do I need to put in my accounts at Jazz or wherever. And so if you've got that figured out, and I don't know, let's say the number is $5,000 a year you want to save, or 8% of your income, 10% of your income, or 11.9% of your income. Why did he say that number? That's kind of interesting. If you've already done that, use your Roth IRA to pay for your kids to go to college. There's a lot of parents that are like, darn it, I should have started that 529 when they were a newborn, but I didn't. Well, it's not too late. You can use the money from your Roth. You're allowed to. Nobody's going to penalize you. Nobody's going to yell at you. You can do that. Even better yet, and I know I've covered this before, FAFSA won't see it because it's a retirement account. So your child's eligibility for maybe some grants and extra things that come along with parents not being able to support all of their expenses for their kids to go to college, well, that's now in play. So think about that further. I've helped countless clients with that, actually. Remember, you have to plan ahead for that. You can't just say, you know what, college starts next year, I'm going to make myself look poor on paper. No, you can't do that. You got to actually plan ahead. All right, tip number whatever, disability insurance. I'm not an insurance guy myself. You never hear me talking about these variable, whatever they're called. I have yet to find one that makes sense for most people. But what does make sense, and you have to know this is coming from me seeing all the emails that come in, talking to so many people all over the country. And I mean that. We have clients everywhere. When I see someone who is more than on track and everything's going well and they're 47 and everything's great, and then they get hurt really bad, and maybe they can't work for a period of years or even worse, that one gets me, right? Because disability insurance is really cheap. But I know what I would do. If someone said, you want to buy disability insurance, if this were a couple years ago, I would be like, nope, my doors are closed. I don't want to talk insurance. I don't want to do it. You're going to sell me something. I would have instantly shut them out. It's really cheap. And you can choose like, hey, I got my dough straight. How about if something goes wrong, replace half my income, 3/4 of my income or something. So I encourage you to just go look at the cost of disability insurance. I don't have any references. I'm not selling it. We don't do it here. This is just that kind of like, when you see how cheap it is, you're going to regret not having it if something goes wrong. Odds are nothing's going to go wrong. Just saying. Think about it. Consider it. The next tip. This is actually Eric's. I stole this from Eric. So if you never met Eric, go check out his videos. But he came up with this, and I never thought of this way. If you have an inherited IRA, did you know that now the IRS has made it crystal clear that every single year you must take an RMD? Just about a year and a half ago, they weren't clear on that. And advisors, myself included, we were all going, hey, we all gang up together and pick on the IRS when we need to know something. And we're like, hey, There's a 10-year rule now where you have to empty out an inherited IRA. Does that mean that you just have to empty it out by the end of the 10th year? Or does that mean that every single year you have to take out an RMD? They actually had a picture showing one and text showing the other. And that happens when laws get changed quickly. But the rule now is crystal clear. You got to take it out every single year. Whatever the market value was at the end of the previous year, you have an RMD, even though you just inherited the account, you got to do it. Well, Eric's idea was, why don't we just bump up your 401k if we can at the same level as the RMD? So you're offsetting the tax by getting the deduction, right? And that's not a perfect scenario for everybody, but it's got to be a consideration. Sadly, during COVID, we're basically experts now in beneficiaries, inherited accounts, trusts and estates, arguments over what the will says versus beneficiaries and stuff. Because sadly, despite what you may believe or whatever, there was a lot of people that passed away through COVID there. So if you have an inherited IRA, you got to get that right, because the IRS said for 2020 and 2021, we're going to give you a pass. We understand that the rules weren't clear. You do need to fix it, but we're going to give you a pass. But they're not messing around going forward. They made that very, very clear. The next tip, be super aggressive in an HSA. I see this so much, man. And sometimes it takes a little convincing for people because we manage any account for you. We can handle Roths and IRAs and SEPs and in brokerage accounts and everything. But if you have a 401k or an HSA or something that's unique to maybe a TSP or something, we can still manage it for you. And it's all part of what we do here. But I find that when people want us to manage their HSA, pretty much every time, I'm not even going to say 9 times out of 10, it's more than that. Every time someone is not being aggressive enough in their HSA. I know I spent a little time talking about HSAs this week, but you want to be as aggressive as humanly possible in your HSA. Go for it. It's the lowest balance account that you likely have and will have, and it has the triple tax advantage. We all know, if you don't know, go watch a video on HSAs or something, but you have a triple tax advantage. So why would you not want that money to grow as much as possible? And now that you know the tricks of the HSA from yesterday, or from the last video about HSAs, now you know you really want that account to grow. So be as aggressive as humanly possible. If you lose 20% in your first year of an HSA, like do the math. Oh, family plan, I put $7,300 in an HSA, it lost 10%, you're down $730. You can live with that versus your 401k. Ooh, that's going to make you nervous. Next tip. Did you know, this is true. This is not an opinion. This is absolutely true, even down to the TSP. And I'm not a horn tooting kind of person, but I've pretty much seen every 401k account out there on the entire planet right now, believe it or not, because there's only so many of them. You can always beat the target date fund. Always. There was one rare moment earlier this year when stocks and bonds were falling together more than they've ever fallen in history. And you know how I track my markets. I'm not messing around on this one. That had never, ever happened before, where bonds fell so fast, the price, and the stock market fell so fast. That was the one time ever in history where I could say, if you just started investing in a target date fund, you will likely beat on the next bounce, but then that's it, you're done. In your 401k, 403b, 457, TSP, you can always beat the performance. Now, that doesn't mean you should beat the performance. I'm going to go a different direction tonight, but some of you have to be in the target date funds. There's no other way around it, and that's due to your plan. But purely performance-wise, if you have a target date fund and you choose that, that's just you being lazy. I mean, I'm feeling pretty tough. I've had a drink, so I'm a little more mouthy than I normally am. But no, it's really true. Every single scenario, you can beat a TSP. Get off your butt, get in there and take a look, put together some work. There's a lot of great platforms out there inside of your login at your 401k. If you want performance and you're not concerned about any other part of your plan, you can beat it. I'm not kidding on that one. You're not going to find, oh, Dustin was wrong. You can. Trust me. If someone can legitimately say that they put their effort in and they found that they cannot beat the TSP, we'll come up with something where I show you how to do it or something. I don't know what rules are there if I get in trouble. If you're a client, I'll just happily do it for you. But we'll figure something out. If someone can actually tell me that I tried my best and I can't beat it, we'll come up with a game where if I can't beat it, then I'll give you something or whatever. But that's how confident I am in that. Okay, next topic. This is going along here. Next topic. If you don't know how much to save for retirement because you're too young, you don't like us, don't want our help, or just are nervous about financial advisors, I don't know how much more relaxed I can make it. But if you don't know how much to save, start with 11.9%. Did you know that that number is the number that will get anyone and everyone there? It will. Like that, we went through so many studies on that. We have classes for our clients and everything where we went through and said, here's plan A. We did not know plan A related to plan B, but look, this is what we came up with. It's about 11.9%. Over here, this person's going for it. They want a heck of a retirement. It's 11.9%. So in short, I feel really good. I don't give a lot of specific advice out here because I can get in trouble. But if you don't know, just go for 11.9%. That includes the match. So if you say, I put in 4 and they match 4 or whatever, take that off your income and that counts. All that counts together. You are that much closer to 11.9%, right? Here's a fun one. If you're, and I have notes, so oftentimes these things come to my head, but I've made notes for this one, so just being honest. If you're fortunate enough to have a chunk of change in your savings account and you say, you know what, I've thought about this. I'm just going to pay off a part of my mortgage. I'm going to make a large principal payment to my mortgage. Before you do it, I want you to ask if you would be eligible to recast your mortgage, not refinance, not anything else. Recast your mortgage. Almost every single lender out there is going to say yes. However, that person you talk to won't be able to do it. They're going to put you in touch with somebody. You're going to do it. Recasting your mortgage is not refinancing. There is no cost to doing that at all. You are saying, hey, bank, I got a bunch of money. I'm willing to put it down on the principal of my mortgage, but I want you to then take the remaining balance and cast it over the life of the loan, which will just lower your payment. It won't change anything else. It just changes your payment. There's no closing to be had. There should be no cost to do this. It's a consideration, right? So if you're going to make a large lump sum payment to your mortgage, before you do it, just ask them if you can recast it. You can continue to make the same payments that you want. You'll pay it off just a touch faster, but something to think about there. Okay, here's one. If you're, like I just came up with it, it's right here. I'm reading it. If you are a small business owner and you are an S Corp, meaning you have elected S election status for your business and you've chosen to go that route, good stuff, yeah, no problem, then make sure you pay yourself no more than what is a reasonable salary for your actual job title. You may be the owner of the company, but you have a title at that company. If your job is to go out and be a salesperson, okay, you're still the owner, but your main job, the hat that you're wearing is a salesperson. You have other people that physically produce the product or deliver the service, but you go do the sales. Make sure that you are paying yourself what's known as a reasonable salary and not a dime more. The IRS is 100% clear on this, that they are going to come after S Corps that are not paying themselves a reasonable salary. They literally have said, it's not a matter of if we're going to go after people, we are unleashing the algorithm that allows us to figure this out. So that doesn't mean go pay yourself more. That means clearly identify on your tax filing what is your profession and then pay yourself a reasonable salary. By not paying yourself more, of course, you know you get out of paying the employment tax. So you're saving, 12.4% by doing that. That's the benefit and legal right of an S Corp owner, but just don't volunteer to pay yourself too much there. Next topic here, the Augusta rule. I've talked about this a lot lately because they see the kids on TikTok talking about this like it's, magic stuff, and it's awesome, but you have to be really specific about this. If you're a client, we actually have a specific package that we've made so that you follow this rule line by line. This goes back to US Corp owners as well, too. This is another thing you can do. Or C Corp, doesn't matter. Partnership, too, all that stuff. But you would email Haley, and she will send you that package to make sure that if you're going to do and follow that rule where you can actually get that tax-free money legally and clearly, we want it to be legal and clear. So if you saw that class, go into the dojo if you're a client, and you can click on Augusta rule. But in short, you know the rule. You've seen it online. You rent your house from yourself, and then you can pay yourself that tax-free income. That is very much true. There are a few gotchas that the IRS will not let you get away with. And I'm not just teasing that to say, oh, you better know what that is. No, you need to look up that rule, right? And check it out. Okay, getting down here to the bottom here. Want you to work in your brokerage account to get rid of your non-qualified dividends and see if you can't be happy with some other investment, stock, position, whatever, a grouping of positions that gets you a qualified dividend. Unless your non-qualified dividend, I should say it this way, unless your net non-qualified dividend is greater than your net qualified dividend. Over here, non-qualified dividends we have treated as ordinary income. Over here, we have qualified dividends treated as long-term capital gains. Take the net number, it'll only take you a second. Take the net number and see, is my total net dividend, in other words, I got paid 5.75%, but after my ordinary tax, it's actually 5.1% or something. Well, if you're going to say, well, I don't like that I have to pay ordinary income tax, but the best you can do is 4% over here in qualified dividends, well, by all means, pay the tax, right? You end up with net more money. So maybe something we could expand on in the future. Are you a market geek that's happened to make it through this incredibly long video here tonight? If you are a little bit geeky, then it's likely you have a brokerage account that has positions that you've been holding all year because they've just been drifting lower, and you say, well, I don't care. I don't need the money. They'll bounce back. Or maybe you're a person that just likes to buy some stock every once in a while and you just like watching it. If that's the case, you're leaving money on the table. Sell 10 to 15% out of the money calls on those positions, provided that you have enough shares to do that, right? You want to focus on that. It's not easy to do when the market's going down because you feel like it's going to bounce and take away your stock. If so, so be it, right? Get back in and play the game again. But consider doing that right now because although volatility is not really high, individual stock volatility is high. So something to look at there. We've covered that in a couple of the closing beat issues there, or shows. Lastly, let me do one more here. I know this was supposed to be rapid fire. I gave you a lot. I told you it was 15 from the start here. So if you're drinking with me, you're probably on the floor already. Last one. Consider your beneficiaries in your account not by person, but by income. Now this goes to those, this is how the wealthy people do it. Right? This is, like I said, this is my background. This is where I come from here, is helping people how to divvy up tens of millions of dollars. That's a real problem. But what I want you to do is, if you have account A and it's a brokerage account and it has $100,000 in it, and you have account B, it's an IRA, and it has $100,000 in it, and you say, well, I have 2 kids and I want them, let them each have 50% of each account. I want them to have this money, and it's great. I'm happy to do that for them, and I've saved and scrimped and all that stuff. Take a look at your kids. Every family's different. Look at your kids, and if they're old enough, well, first of all, they have to be old enough, but if they're old enough and kind of out there working, which kid is likely to make more money? Because we have 100,000 and 100,000. So either way, we're going to give them 200,000 total dollars, but they happen to be in 2 different accounts. So if you have one child who's a go-getter to some degree more than the other child, and their income projection throughout their life is much higher, you would know that, right? If they're a lawyer or aspiring to be a lawyer and the other one wants to start a business, this one could probably kick this one's butt eventually, but he's got to go through a little bit more. The lawyer's going to make more faster. All right, well, depending on your age, you may say, instead of giving them 50% of each account, I'm going to give the lawyer child my taxable account. And I'm going to give the business owner child my IRA, right? Because the lawyer child gets the step up in basis, well, for now, gets the step up in basis, and chances are it's not going to hurt him too bad, and maybe he'll just hold the positions. If he sells them, not that big of a deal when you die. The business owner child is likely going to take losses from their business for a few years, not because they suck at it, but because they're allowed to, and they probably want to expand and build and grow. And so if they have to take the yearly RMD rule from an inherited IRA, it's likely not going to cost them that much tax at all, if any, depending on how much losses they have from the business. You get the picture that I'm pointing at there? So don't just blindly say, I have 2 kids and I want them to be equal share in my stuff. Okay, equal share could mean 1 account and 1 account. It doesn't have to mean 50-50. It could mean 50-50 of your net worth. So find somebody that can help you with that, or maybe I just did and you don't need anything else, but definitely something to consider there. That just comes from memory from way back in the day when we had to deal with things like that, but with a lot more zeros. I'll tell you, there are some very fortunate people out there, and if they walked by you barefoot in a 7-Eleven, you'd never know that they had $40 million that just given to them that day, and their net worth is now $240 million. I mean, there are some people out there with some dough. I mean, if I had never met them, I'd have been like, yeah, what are you got your Trumps and your political people and they make money. No. Very cool. Anyways, there you go. I believe that was 15. I'm not going to review them again for you, but how you like that? Little rapid fire sort of things. Just had a bunch of thoughts in my head and I said, well, let's just hit them with everything and see what happens there. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Enjoy the rest of your evening there. And by the way, if you're considering a whiskey, this one was my favorite. I want to save this card because I might even be a purchaser of a bottle of this. Oh, I put it right in front of me. Okay, perfect. The Kurayoshi 12-year-old pure malt whiskey. Well, that explains it. There's the Scotch thing. Anyways, so very, 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 very good. Enjoy the rest of your evening. It is very late here, and I've got to get ready for tomorrow. And the closing beat, we do a show every day at 5. I'm like half awake for it. No, I'm just kidding. See you.